crazy with brake lines, well, hydraulic lines. I know what I'm about to say is going to be controversial. Everybody has a different philosophy, and that's okay. But I'm not replacing all the brake lines. I'm replacing the ones I have to. The ones that are in good shape are going to get reused. It would be nice to go to this copper thing on everything, but it's not necessary. The clutch line here had already been replaced, so that got cleaned up and put back in. These two I bent up yesterday, well, a couple days ago. Those were in bad shape, so I decided to replace those. This brake line coming off here was in pretty good shape. It was mostly covered with goo, that typical road dirt. So I cleaned it all off, sanded it up a bit, and painted it. Same with these other ones. One of the things I have learned, if you're following along to do your car, to put your car back together, is that I've done this wrong. What have I done wrong? This brake hose needs to come up and go down so this can connect up into it. So I simply have to take it off and put it back on the right way. My mom raised me that saying two wrongs don't make a right. Well, I'm going to prove her wrong now. This hose here that goes into here and runs along the front and over to the driver's side front brake. The end busted off when I took it off the brake line. This is pretty common. The nut seizes to the tube, and then you twist it and it shears the tube off. Well, I thought I ordered one. Turns out I didn't. But so that's wrong number one. The other wrong is the clutch tube that runs over here down to the slave cylinder. I ordered one, but I didn't need to. But it turns out that it has the right. They both have the same fittings on them. So here's the one I ordered. So the problem is that it has this focus. Not gonna focus. It has this bump on it. This flare. It's called a double flare. There's different kinds of flares. So it's too long and it has this flare. Okay, you say? So what can we do about that? Well, what we can do is cut it off and re-flare it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So last summer, my dad and I were working on the Sprite, trying to get it running. And before you get it drivable, you should always fix the brakes, because once you get that engine running, you're going to want to drive it. So he had started working on the brakes even before I got there, and just like me, one of the fittings sheared off. So he ordered a new tube, and he didn't want to mount it, he didn't want to bend it, so when I got there, that was my job. We found out that one of the fittings was wrong. So we're in the middle of Missouri. There's a couple auto parts stores not far. We have Victoria British up in Kansas, not too far away, but we didn't want to order one. We wanted to figure out the problem there and get it going, move past it. So we went to the hardware store, and this guy was there helping us. He was really great, but we were having trouble. So we couldn't do the flare, so we ended up buying a new standard one, and then adapters to fit the old one. It was very complicated. So when I bought this one, I knew that it was rusty. I'd probably have a similar problem, and I didn't want to have to deal with that in a foreign language. So one of the first things I did, one of my first orders, was to order this kit. This is a flaring kit. Has everything you need to cut the tube and flare it, doing the double flare. So we're going to play with that now. This is the first time I've used it, but you know, I've seen YouTube videos. I ain't scared of it. So here we go. The general process is that you cut the tube to length. You put one of these adapters in there. You squish it down. Then you take the adapter out and squish it again with the cone. That's the basic process. Let me show you step by step. So since this is my first time doing this, I'm going to do a practice run. I know this tube's long enough, but I'm just going to cut off this flare. We're going to reflare it and see how things go. So if you haven't used a pipe cutter before, it's the same for plumbing as it is for this. You just spin it around, tighten it up, spin it around, tighten it up, and this cutter on there digs into that copper. Well, this is chromium copper or something like that, special copper, but it's just, it feels a lot like the copper in your house. Water pipes. You keep spinning it and twisting. Every time you spin it around, tighten it up a little bit. And then it pops off. Now, you'll notice, if we can focus, that, well, if you can see that at all, there's a, there you go. So it's made the hole too small. It's squished the copper inside because there's a burr on it. Burr. So this has a tool on it, a deburring tool. I'm gonna pop. Oh, it has extra cutting blade in there. So I'm gonna pop out the deburring tool and just stick it in there. Twist it around, and it cuts off that extra copper. Makes it the right size. It also kind of feels like it has a file on there. You might be able to file it down. I have a real file. Just give it a few turns on that. Takes the burrs off. Now I've seen it where you can put it on here. This is like a clamp, where you can put it on here and stick it up there and use that as to make it a perfect 90-degree. But we don't need to do that. This is going to be just fine. So now, take the clamp, gotta loosen it up. This is 3/16, so we're gonna put it in there. Get this back on there. And how do we know what height to set it? Well, you take your form, your adapter thing, and put it on there, and bring it down to the even. Just like that. You tighten it up, both sides. Check it again. Focus. And you see how that's even there? So now, fun part. It's called your A-frame. Open it up. It goes, open it some more. It goes on here. You take your form. It goes in there. Then you start to squish it. And you go all the way down as far as you can. Pull this out, you take out your die. You see it squished it, but we're not done yet. Now you need to do it once again, but without the die. Make sure you get it lined up. Goes right in the hole. And tighten it down. There we go. Take your A-frame off. You can loosen these. And there you have it. The most important thing is remember to put your fitting on before you do that. So then you have a double flare that will fit on the fitting, and when you squish this down, this will take the form of what you're squishing it to, so it'll form its own seal. Remember, this is soft and squishy. So now that we've been through this, and I know I can do it. I can bend this to the correct position, cut it to length, and redo it. So this is the piece we need to make. I'm gonna start bending it on the bench, and get over this part, and then leave this long, put it on the car, and then I'll know exactly where I need to cut it and form this end. Now is a good time to talk about these. What are they? These are the little clips. There you go. These are the little clips that hold in the hydraulic hoses. Normally, you just see that much sticking out. They drill a hole, it slides into it, holds on there, and that gives you space to hold onto your hydraulic tube. So all these are original. They came out of the car. I know it's nice and shiny, isn't it? So I took them all out, sandblasted them, and put them in this rust converter fluid, which puts on a phosphoric zinc phosphate. That's what it is. Zinc phosphate. It gives it a nice coating. It's more durable than paint would be. It stands up to tooling. Like I've been using it on my bolts and nuts, and when you put the wrench on it, it seems to stay in place. So these are going to go in the holes and hold my the new tube in place. Now on this side you can see we have lots of extra line. So I got the fitting pushed way back there, so I'll make sure to remember to put it in place. Now I just need to finish bending it, put the new flare on it, and screw it on. There it is, it's on. I need to take it off. I need to make sure there's a... when I deburred it in place, I couldn't dump it upside down to get the metal shavings out, and I don't want those in my hydraulic line. So I'm going to take it off, clean it out, put it back on, and finish tightening up, which will set the seals, it'll make this pipe seal against the flexible hose. And that should complete the piping of the hydraulic system. I'm going to go around and tighten everything up. One final check. And then maybe put some hydraulic fluid in it, see where it starts to leak. So I put fluid in it, waited a while, started hearing a drip. So I came back here to find that this hose had, well, it was no good. There was a hole on the bottom that I didn't see right up in here. So I took it off, put this hose on to let all the hydraulic fluid drip out into a can instead of all over my car on the new paint job. So now it looks like it's done dripping, so I can take it off and bend it to the shape of the one that came off. Luckily, we now have the skill of adding these flares. So this is the extra tube, the extra length from the front one that I just did. There, now it's all clean and shiny. So I've gone around and gravity bled the brakes. That's where you open the nipple and wait, and wait, and wait, and eventually it drips a bit out and you close it up. With that done, I was able to pump the pedal and get a little bit of pressure, which tells me that it seems like that's all the leaks patched up. Well, I did have to tighten this one up a little bit, but everything else seems to be seated and not leaking, at least as far as I can tell doing it this way. So that's good news. Okay, so we're gonna bleed the clutch. The clutch, you don't even have the engine in place. Well, that's all right. Clutch is all there. The slave cylinder just needs to be attached. We're gonna start off by just gravity bleeding it. So, crack the nipple open. Oh, it's tight. Ah. Very tight. There it goes. And now we wait until it starts dripping out. Yeah, it's an awfully long line. Maybe this is going to be too slow. So, push down on the clutch pedal. And close it up, lift up, push down, open it up. There's a pop of air came out of it. So we're moving fluid. That's good. Yep, there it's dripping. So, have to be careful now. Pump it again under pressure. It will blow the piston out of the slave cylinder. So we're gonna put the pin back in it. And saw this trick online. See if I can do it here. Maybe a bigger clamp will work better. Alright, let's go this way with it. The idea is that you use your clamp to hold the piston down. Then, as you pump it, you'll be able to get the air out. That's the theory. I haven't tried this before. I guess it's a little bit like the brakes. It should build up pressure against the force of the clamp. Well, I'd say it built up pressure. I have to find everywhere it squirted besides on me. That seemed to work. Oh wow, it feels like a clutch. More air. I think that did it. I think that's solid. I've become addicted to these blue drags. I've used more in the last week than I have the whole time before. After everything's clean, you try to keep it clean. When you're dealing with oil and hydraulic fluid and stuff, it's challenging. So, good. Happy with that. I think we have a working clutch. Yeah, you can see it move. Trying to move the clamp there. I think that's going to move. I think it's going to work well. So I'm using my laptop to check the fault codes. Just kidding. I'm using what I'm doing. I'm watching an old episode of this series. I'm watching day 4 because on day 4 I went around and followed the wiring harness. And the wiring harness in the video is installed how it should be. And I need to figure out how to put this spaghetti in there. So I got plenty more to do, but I got the wiring harness mostly in place, at least the engine bay. So it's not been going too bad. I know I've complained a lot about parts not fitting, but knock on wood, this one seems to be going in rather well. There seems to be wires for everything, and not too many extra wires. I have a couple head scratches to work out, but between the video I made and the service manual, It's going really smooth. If you like this video, click the like button below. If you want to come along on the ride as we complete this project, click the subscribe button. If you want to make sure Google reminds you every time there's a new video, click the alarm bell. Your support is very much appreciated.